Hey everybody, this is DJ and Reg. You just wanted to talk real quick. Like a lot of people, we found out sadly yesterday that brother Sly Stone has transitioned and become part of the ancestors. And as fate would have it, in honor of Black Music Month, we were planning on dropping our episode about Sly. We had recorded about a month and a half ago now, a episode of Mama We Made It on Sly Lives, the documentary by Questlove that details Sly and the Family Stone's rise to greatness. And we are excited to present that episode to you, but obviously we didn't know at the time that Brother Stone would transition in the same time we were dropping this episode. So we are saddened. Rest in peace to a genius, and that the conversation we're going to have on the podcast is one that we really enjoyed. But we just wanted to put it in the proper context. So from my standpoint, he was an amazing dude. And DJ, you put me onto this documentary, and the timing couldn't have been more now profound.
I think we do a great job of paying homage to Sly and the Family Stone. You know, one of the things that really intrigued me, and this won't be a long conversation, was just the era that Sly was born into. And I think it was Time magazine that penned it the silent generation, from like 1925 to maybe 1946. Notably, conformity, reticence, hesitance to speak, those sorts of things. So to think that's the generation he was born in, but represented everything but that, is a not so gentle reminder for us to continue to seek our liberation and voice society, justice, all of that. So, Sly is that example for me.
Be unapologetically yourself and bring your people with you. So check out the episode. We love the brother. We lift him up as an example of genius and excellence. And though the times did get hard for him, it feels like his family loved him and was surrounding him as he transitioned. So much respect to the brother, and I hope y'all enjoy the conversation. And once again, you should check out the documentary Sly Lives. Boogie, how many pairs of glasses do you have? And what's your favorite?
I don't have a favorite purse, but I'd say 8.
How do you pick on any given day? What are you I start with the footwear dude, I start with the glasses dude? Like, how you lay it out for the day?
I think subconsciously I start with the glasses. Then it's shirt. So I am a head to toe cat.
Okay.
I've never been a mad sneakerhead, to be honest with you. I think the accessory drives the conversation for me. What chain do I want to wear? What glasses do I? Because I treat glasses as an accessory.
Sure. They are prescription though, right? You need them to see.
They are all prescription.
Yeah.
Yep. Progressive lensed. They turn into sunglasses.
Yeah. Little Foster Grant. I dig it. I dig it.
There you go, blue blockers. So yeah, before we start today though, how about you? Because you got a couple pair yourself, Coach.
Glasses are an Achilles heel for me. I ain't gonna tell you how many I got, but I got more than one.
Okay, you got a lot. You got a lot.
And
don't think I don't notice them. Y'all remember the last time we were together?
And here's the thing, because of how we're recording this, I'm getting away with not wearing my glasses most of the time, so I don't have to own up to my addiction. I would say that I am a color and energy dude, right? So I will start simply with what color am I feeling today? And then it oftentimes starts with the t-shirt I'm going to wear. And then I build from there. Sometimes it's head to toe. Sometimes it's from the bottom up. But oftentimes it's simply what energy am I feeling? What vibe am I feeling? What color do I want to go with? And then I build from there, because I don't have, my wardrobe is a lot like my music taste. A lot of 70s and 80s hits, baby. So I ain't got a lot of fresh gear, unlike some people.
I hear you. I hear you. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty much monochromatic these days. So I would be very limited if I started with anything but what I want these glasses to look like. You did have a nice pair of green glasses, if I recall the last time we saw.
I,
Hoping low key you laid them down somewhere, but you never
I
did.
have laid them down. They're my reading glasses. Well, I don't read, but I don't need my glasses to read. They're my bedroom glasses. Like if I'm watching TV in my bedroom,
Okay.
I don't roll them out much too more.
Okay.
But we should probably start the show. Welcome,
We could. We could.
welcome, welcome to Mama. We made it with DJ and Reg.
I'm DJ.
I'm Reg. We are excited for today's conversation. DJ put me onto this. I probably would have gotten to it, but it was his prompting. We're going to talk today about the documentary Sly Lives, about the legendary Sly Stone, Sly and the Family Stone, more broadly, created by Questlove. Fascinating documentary. This is our first conversation, but not our last, of content for Black folk by Black folk, which is how I see this, man. Like, that this is Questlove bringing it to us. That this is about the brother Sly, who very much is still alive and lives, was fascinating. I learned a ton. The energy, the vibe, the color palette, the fashion, like all the history was fascinating. So I'm excited to get into it, man. So thank you for putting me onto it. How did you hear about this documentary?
You're welcome. And oddly enough, um, Ari Spears. I was watching
Oh wow, is he still
Ari.
allowed to speak in public?
He is. He is. Certain formats. Um, he was talking about things that have impacted him lately, and he mentioned the documentary Sly Lives. And I said, wow, there's a documentary out about. So I said, you know what? Then he said, done by Questlove. I'm like, yeah, I definitely need to check that out. So thank you, Ari Spears. That's how I found out about it and immediately watched it, and my mind was blown first. Um, I'm hoping we can get into some specifics on what impacted you most about it. I'll start the conversation with, for me, I continue to find and be delivered around my sources of inspiration the more I move through life. And for me, it's, this, it's always been music, sports, etc. But man, music for me has been a constant. So when I think about Sly and I think about this documentary, man, it forced me to give that brother and his crew their flowers. Because as I'm sitting in cars driving with my mom, I'm in a new city, I'm trying to figure stuff out, everything's new. I hear it's a family affair, and it's like, you know what, everything's gonna be okay. He was a part of, I say they were a part of my growing up that I'd forgotten. So it was overwhelming in that regard, just the music and what it did to me, how it prepared me for class, how it prepared me for sports, and just something new. Hey man, we moving to T-neck. I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna put on this a family affair. So that's one thing I thought about. And again, man, we can play tennis on this. Um, what was it that impacted you? You said it was fascinating in a conversation we had.
It's the storytelling, all of the storytelling. So I was inspired by the depth of the roster that was interviewed to give perspective on Sly, both in terms of kind of a historical through line, but also just creatively to hear Q-Tip or Three Stacks or Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis talk about how they use Sly as either broadly inspiration or literally, check please, I'm gonna go take this beat and turn it into Rhythm Nation. That was fascinating to see because all those storytellers in there, Vernon Reed, those are dynamic folk, right? That I have tremendous respect for creatively and intellectually. So that part of it for me was a lot. I just remember, the news stories in the 80s and 90s of Sly being down bad. And like you, man, I had forgotten not the music, but the musicianship of the music. The I think in the beginning of the documentary they talk
Mm-hmm.
about this question: what is black
Like
genius as
genius.
such, is genius? And truly, that's what he was, right? So to learn about his journey to genius was really, really inspiring. So we can unpack that. But I was impressed with how much I didn't know, and I was thrilled that he is in fact still with us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe seen some higher days, better days, but also feels like there's love in his family, and he is, still working through the world on his own terms, with the things that are important to him. So I was just inspired by how much I didn't know and the storytellers who were telling the story.
I agree. And this whole thing around liberation, man, he operated with it appeared to be effortless liberation and was not confined in his approach. He had those who inspired him. Obviously, you in the church 7 days a week making music. Um, but there was nothing confining about his approach to creation. And man, I value that so much. Um, Sometimes the spaces we operate in, corporate America, education, whatever it might be, it's sort of designed to confine you. And this brother, man, would take a drum machine that people have been using for decades and do things with it that had never been done. Um, the breadth of his music fascinated me as well. Songs like Stand that resonated, Black Panther Party, Black Empowerment, etc. But then Family Affair, somehow making family dysfunction digestible. Um, the nursery rhyme-esque approach to songs that are so catchy, you like, man, how did this brother do that? Then the harmony comes in. Um, I was fascinated, man, continue to be. I watched it again last night as well. I think you
Yeah, me
mentioned
too.
earlier you had done that.
I
Yeah,
did. Yep.
I could watch it again and again because I pick up something new every time. And some of the comments, like you, definitely moved me. And for me, it was a lot of what Stax and D'Angelo were saying.
Sure.
You know, D'Angelo talked about this sort of need to be vulnerable. Um, but when you do that, it can create this disengagement. And sometimes you're disengaging from the burden of being a black genius.
Yes.
And you're fighting this vulnerability, right? And you become a quote unquote unwilling participant. Man, that rocked me when he said that. You
Yep.
become this unwilling participant in something that you love. And that's crazy to me, man, to think about it that way. To your point, influences. We can go on and on. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Brothers Johnson, Prince, D'Angelo. I was listening to D'Angelo's song "Till It's Done."
Yep.
It's my favorite D'Angelo song.
Okay.
Um, you hear Sly now, man. I mean, like I hear it now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
knew that was one of my favorite songs ever. "Till It's Done," but now I hear it, man. And I was a loner as a kid, at times a lonely kid, but it was music, man. That music and sports that grounded me like, man, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. No matter where you are, everything's going to be okay. And I would listen to words really intently early. And it was that sometimes that brought me back to, because I didn't know, brothers and sisters, no dad, whatever. So, man, it was that, this thing around liberation. I'm heavy into that,
Yep.
not being confined. And that's another thing that resonated with me as well. Anything else for you?
Man, you touched on one of the key things for me. The power of the black church
Mm,
as a engine for cultural expression, right? Faith walk aside, the days when the black church was centered to community spawned all manner of creative expression beyond the walls of the church, musically, oratorically, speaking, all the things that come from that. And so when he talked about, feeling the music and seeing people get happy and fusing that sense of feeling the music as a cultural expression into how you feel his music, you feel the church. Like you feel the
yes,
spirit
you do.
in his music and their music. And that was really, really powerful. And I think a lot about as Black church attendance declines, as church attendance in general declines, but as Black churches physically are starting to disappear, in addition to all the arts programs that have been pulled out of schools, particularly where our kids are, I continue to wonder and worry about the robustness of the cultural expression, the feeling of the music, and where the soul comes from. And that's not to denigrate any music that's born outside of the church, but it is to say, where does the soul and the feel of music come from? So if you can feel it viscerally with him, that was amazing to me. To be a Bay Area dude with strong Southern influences is to speak about the Great Migration. So how much of that Southern culture traveled all the way across the country to this family that, kind of was born out of church musicianship. So that was fascinating to me. And I think the flip side of all of it was, and then the bottom fell out. Like almost
Yeah,
overnight, he got so big from
yeah.
Woodstock to dominating the first half of the '70s. That the album that I wasn't familiar with until I really dug into it in this documentary is the one that came out in '71. There's a riot going on. That's a
Hmm.
phenomenal album that I now listen to. I'm like, yo, I know that sample, I know that beat, or I know that particular song.
Uh-huh.
But as a statement piece for a dude who was clearly and unapologetically Black, but also real multicultural in his approach. This is a
Hmm.
political statement without being overly political. And so to watch him build all that to get to the highest heights, and then, the demons that are drug addiction take hold, was sobering. And as I look at him now, all the way at 82 or however old he is at this point in time, I'm like, prayerfully, he's still with us. And
Hmm.
prayerfully, these stories are still with us. But the rise to greatness and the slow and steady return to earth was hard to take and hard to watch. And I felt myself rooting for him, but also like just cringing at the pain that you could see of being isolated. To your point, lonely in this notion of geniushood was a hard watch in that regard.
It was. And that battle to remain or regain his relevance was also tough to watch, man. Um, the ham bone in front of a group of white ladies.
Come on, come on, come on! Like,
Man,
like
that
the
stuff that
energetic
killed
handball,
me.
like he was fully onto it.
Yeah, man. That hurts. That hurts the heart, knowing who that brother is. So imagine if I'm cringing watching that. Imagine what's happening inside of him. The other thing too, man, I'm gonna give my flowers to this brother on. You weren't gonna make Sly look crazy. He might make himself look crazy. That's on him. But you can try Dick Cavett, Mr. Hillbilly from Buffalo County, Nebraska, glorified hillbilly. Um, you're not gonna make that man look crazy. You can, through humor, attempt to degrade this brother. He ain't gonna let it happen. He's gonna let you know, I know what you're doing, and I'm not gonna let you do it. Now, if you want to get into a battle of wits, I'm not really trying to do that, but I'm more than prepared to do that with you.
No matter
But the
how
Ed Sullivan,
foggy, fuzzy, no matter that I'm reaching for this rock under this pillow right next to me, I am fully present and I can see clearly what you're doing.
yeah, yeah, and I know
Where's
you
my
got
rock?
something good in that cabinet over there. Can I get a sip? Um, but you know what, man? It ain't a whole lot you can tell me bad about that brother, man. I know he's got his struggles, man. That's not for me to judge. And at times I wonder, Purse, how much genius is associated with that psychedelic tripping that he experienced from some of those substances. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you, hey, let's go do mushrooms and see what happens. But you got to take it all.
He talked a little bit about that, right? And chicken and egg. I don't know what came first for him. I think his genius manifests before we get to that stage. But he talked
Hmm.
about basically, now look, boys and girls, don't be over here messing around with this if your brain ain't built for it. because
He
everybody's
did.
brain ain't built for it. And so he talked about like the way my brain works. It had a unique impact on me in ways good and not so good. And I'm honest about the fact that it messed me up. It likely will mess you up as well, but I can't sit here and say LSD is bad, angel or PCP is bad. I can say the way my brain received it was unique for me, and you got to be really, really wary if you're gonna go down this road. Don't be over here, messing around because you get your feelings hurt. So it was fascinating to hear him talk about that.
Yeah.
I get the sense genius beget boredom,
Mhm.
beget, oh man, all it takes, as George Clinton said, that first hit and it's done, baby. You chasing that for the rest of your life. And some people just never come back from that journey. So
Mm-mm.
I mean, even to have George in this conversation, given all that he had gone through, and to find out that they were running buddies, right? Like they were homies
Yep.
in a way that makes sense creatively if you look back on it, but I would have never guessed that. I didn't know that. And George, for all his life experiences, comes across as super lucid, like really, really clear about what it was and what was going on, and what we love to get high together, and that's what it was, and it influenced what was going on around us. Was what came out of it productively genius still at that time? You'd have to go map it to really be clear.
I love that. And you recall Bobby Womack talking about the sessions that we never heard. Bobby Womack, Ike Turner, Billy Preston, Buddy Miles, and Sly. Things we'll never hear that were created. And he's like, yeah, but there were substances in the room.
Yes.
Right? There
yes.
were substances in the room.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
not my bag.
Yes.
But who am I to say?
So I have a question for you, though. Can I ask you a question at
Sure.
that point?
Yeah.
So, Mama, we made it. Will we say that Sly, however defined, made it? And what's that look like for him?
Incredible question. I would say Sly made it. Why? A lot of making it to me has to do with, and I've said it before, the impact you have on others and the innovation and inspiration you bring to others. And undoubtedly, that still lives today. His inspiration, his impact. At a baseline level, you feel it through samples. But for someone like me, I've been reintroduced to a source of innovation now, even in the work that I do, that's been revived by watching this documentary. So I think he made it. He was liberated. He made decisions. He had a lot of impact, and he was extremely innovative globally. So, in my opinion, Sly made it. Wasn't without some headwinds, etc. But I'd have to say yes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think unquestionably, and I don't want to, I don't want to make the litmus test of did they or did they not make it, because I think it is, you part of making it is rock to rock, right? And I don't mean literally rock to rock, but like jumping through a pond, right? You from one rock to the next rock to get from shore to shore, and I think that making it is definitely mental, like a mental liberation and freedom to a space of I can see the game clearly and I can be beyond its reach. And I think there's part of that is definitely defines his journey. I think the other part of making it is, to your point, legacy and what you leave behind doesn't mean you can't be down bad and have made it, right? Like, and I think he's a perfect example of, without question, Sly was wildly successful and made it to a sense of freedom that we most of us would would aspire to in tremendous ways. He paid a price for that, and so it wasn't for free or without much sacrifice. But there's no question that he got to the other side of I got a vision for my life, and I'm gonna do all I can to make it manifest. And it did indeed come to fruition. And I think for me, trying to become a creative after years of being
a suit and being a process dude, trying to get to some sense of I got an idea, I want to bring it to life in a way that an audience receives it warmly, and that there is some success attached to it. It's easier said than done, man. And I'm fascinated by cats who can do that at the highest level, and I'm not sure that anybody else reached a pinnacle higher than Sly for the art that he was trying to create.
I think as we wrap, Purse, one of the more intentional filters, even though we're talking more theoretically around, making it, is do you leave here with full control of your content, whatever that might be?
You're reading my mind. Yeah.
Right, and it feels like, I believe the Michael Jackson estate in the 80s purchased, well, they own it now, but in the 80s, he gave his royalties up. So I hesitate a bit. Doesn't diminish any of his accomplishments or achievements, but you would hope you leave here with full control, and can redirect those resources as you see fit. So that's the one piece that kind of rubs up against it a little bit. But again, man, this brother was in a different space. So
sure. Let's talk about that real quick before we get out of here.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Michael Jackson's publishing company, kind of that holding company that buys these types of things. The first catalog they bought in 1983 was Sly and the Family Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Sly has this lawsuit where he sues his former lawyer and maybe agent and manager, and he wins a $5 million settlement in 2015, only to lose it on appeal. 2019, My Jack comes back around and buys basically the rest of his catalog, U.S. rights, as well as I think worldwide rights that they already had. And I read that as salvation. That Sly loses this lawsuit in 2015. He is, on hard times financially and in other ways. And in 2019, the estate of Michael Jackson, because Mike is gone, comes kind of to the rescue. You're right. He don't own the rights no more, but it was a little golden nugget at the end that hopefully gives him some peace. But for which now down the road, we'll always have the question, if I hear a Sly and Family Stone song behind a Wendy's commercial, I'll know how and why. And I don't know if that feels good whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think, as we continue to explore the meaning of Mama We Made It and the foundation and what that means, I think it is important for us to think about the broader aspects of what it means, especially then, man. Are there differences in what making it is today and making it was then, knowing what we know now?
Yeah.
But look, man, powerful. I'll probably watch it again over the next week. Yeah. I'm sure I missed something, but
glad to see his babies and his grandbabies around him.
Yeah,
still having some family love and letting them know that he ain't without love. And if that ain't making it, I don't know what is.
Exactly, brother. So I'm glad you watched it, man. I'm glad we could talk about it.
Thank you for putting this on, man. I'm looking forward to, over the time, unpacking more content from Black creators, because I love how we tell our stories. Shout out to all that went into making that project. Check out Sly Lives on, I think, Hulu. And check us out. Again, subscribe. We're building community here. Let us know what you think of the show. Like us. Give us as many thumbs up and stars as you possibly can. Tell a friend. If you don't like something, tell us. Until next time, this is Mama We Made It. Peace.
See you soon.